AITA for letting karma handle my evil HOA president. I work at a mid-sized apartment complex as the evening concierge. It's not the most glamorous job, but I always took pride in it. My duties were simple: greet tenants, handle packages, and make sure the lobby felt like a warm and welcoming space. It wasn't just a job to me. It felt like I was part of a community. Most of the residents were kind, polite, and kept to themselves. I knew their names, their routines, even their favorite delivery services. But there was one person who managed to make every shift feel like walking on a tightrope: our HOA president, Marjorie. Marjorie was in her late 60s, with perfectly curled silver hair and an expensive wardrobe that screamed, "I run this place." From the moment I met her, she gave off the vibe of someone who believed the entire building existed to serve her whims. She had this uncanny ability to turn her face into a warm, sweet smile whenever someone was looking. But the second they turned their back, she'd lean toward whoever was nearest and whisper the nastiest things imaginable. I've watched her do this to almost everyone: young couples, families, even the elderly residents. She's so bold about it that she doesn't care who overhears her venom. She'll tear into someone's character one moment, then turn around and compliment their shoes like she's their best friend. It's unsettling, and she does it to the building manager, Paul, more than anyone else. Paul is a good guy, soft-spoken, and endlessly patient, but I can see how much her constant needling wears him down. She criticizes his decisions loudly in front of other tenants, acting like she's protecting the building, but I know she just likes to undermine him. As if that wasn't bad enough, Marjorie talks endlessly about her divorce, a divorce that happened over a decade ago. She caught her husband cheating with her best friend, and she never lets anyone forget that she won the battle. She brags about how she got the house, the car, and most of his retirement savings. It's her favorite story, and she tells it like it's a triumphant legend, as if taking everything from him somehow justifies the bitterness she carries around like a badge of honor. Then there's Pixie, her tiny terrier. Don't let the name fool you. Pixie is an absolute menace. She lunges and barks at every other dog in the lobby, straining against her leash, snapping her teeth like she's trying to take a chunk out of anything that moves. And yet, when other tenants try to pull their dogs back, Marjorie scolds them, loudly declaring, "You really need to control your vicious animals. This is supposed to be a safe building." It's infuriating, and I've had to break up more than one heated argument because of her hypocrisy. At first, I did my best to stay neutral. I greeted Marjorie politely, did everything by the book, and kept my head down. I figured if I didn't give her any reason to target me, I'd be fine. But Marjorie has a way of creating drama, even when there's no conflict to begin with. She seemed to take my politeness as some kind of challenge, like she needed to prove she had control over me too. Last month, the building decided to upgrade our security system. They installed a network of 20 high-definition cameras that record 24 hours a day. All that footage gets uploaded to one computer, the one at the front desk that I use during my shift. It's a clunky setup, and the system clearly wasn't designed to handle so much data. The screen freezes constantly, and there are long stretches where it feels like I'm fighting with the computer more than I'm doing my actual job. One of the strict rules is that staff must lock the computer screen every time we step away, even for a moment. I always followed that rule to the letter. One night, I had to step away to deliver a package to a tenant on the top floor. When I came back, all the tabs had crashed. The system had completely reset itself. Marjorie, who had been lingering near the lobby like she often does, immediately swooped in like a hawk that had been waiting for prey. With her syrupy, sweet voice, she said, "Oh, don't worry, dear. This sort of thing happens from time to time. You just need to make sure you use this specific button next time, okay? It prevents glitches." Something about the way she said it made me uneasy, but I nodded and followed her instructions exactly. I didn't want to give her any ammunition against me. Later that night, it happened again. The screen froze, and all the tabs crashed just like before. I felt a knot form in my stomach. I was doing everything correctly. I knew I was. The next morning, my phone rang. It was HR. Without any warning, they told me my employment was being terminated for mishandling the security system. My heart dropped. Wait, what? Mishandling? I followed every protocol. I protested, but they were vague and cold. "We received a report that you repeatedly failed to manage the new system correctly. Effective immediately, you are no longer employed with us." I didn't need them to say who filed that report. I knew. Marjorie. She had been watching me that whole night, hovering near the desk like a shadow. She had set me up. 6 shifts. That's all I lasted before she destroyed me. The worst part isn't even losing the job. It's the humiliation. I'd worked so hard to be professional, to make the tenants feel safe and supported, and she ruined my reputation with one phone call. I went back to the building later that day to collect my belongings. Paul was there, looking deeply uncomfortable. He wouldn't meet my eyes. When I asked him quietly if this was Marjorie's doing, he just sighed and said, "You didn't hear this from me, but she's been pushing for changes around here. She told the board she wants more competent staff." That was all the confirmation I needed. As I walked through the lobby for the last time, Pixie barked wildly at a family walking their golden retriever. Marjorie was standing standing there, smiling sweetly at me. "Best of luck, dear," she said, her voice dripping with fake kindness. "I'm sure you'll find something more suitable for your skill set." I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to scream, to tell everyone what she had done, but I knew it wouldn't matter. She held all the power here. When the elevator doors closed behind me, I felt hot tears sting my eyes. Marjorie didn't just take my job. She took away the little community I had built. She made sure my departure looked like my own failure, not her manipulation. I left the building with my head down, feeling like I'd been erased from a place that once felt like home. And as much as I wanted to walk away and never think about it again, I knew one thing for certain. People like Marjorie don't stop until someone stands up to them. 3 days after I was fired, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, still replaying Marjorie's smirk in my mind. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenna, my former coworker and one of the few people who had been kind to me during this whole mess. Her text read, "You won't believe what's happening right now. Marjorie is losing it." My heart started pounding. I called her immediately, barely giving her time to answer. "Jenna, what's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't waste time. "The entire camera system went down last night. Like, completely dead. No recordings, no live feed, nothing. And this morning? Chaos. Total chaos." She took a deep breath before continuing. "When everyone woke up, half the storage lockers in the basement had been broken into. Bikes, tools, even a tenant's collection of antique guitars, all gone. People are furious, and you'll never guess who they're blaming." My breath caught in my throat. "Marjorie, who else?" Jenna said bitterly. "Apparently, a few weeks ago, she was bragging in the lobby about how she alone has full override access to the cameras. And now suddenly, the system fails the same night. There's a huge theft. She's cornered herself. Tenants are demanding answers, and she's scrambling." As Jenna described the scene, I could practically picture it. Marjorie standing in the middle of the lobby, clutching Pixie while trying to talk over the angry crowd. Jenna lowered her voice. "The HOA board called an emergency meeting this morning. It was intense. People were shouting at her, and for once, she couldn't control the room." "What did she say?" I whispered, leaning closer to my phone as if I could somehow get closer to the drama. "She tried to deny everything at first," Jenna said, almost laughing in disbelief. "She claimed she never said she had full access, and that people were misremembering. But then, oh, this is the best part. The IT technician showed up with the system logs. Turns out someone had been manually switching the cameras on and off at random hours for weeks. And guess which admin code was used every single time?" I couldn't stop myself from grinning. "Marjorie's." "Exactly," Jenna confirmed. "The tech displayed it on the big screen in front of everyone." The room went completely silent for a second, and then all hell broke loose. People started yelling, demanding she step down immediately. I covered my mouth, almost laughing, almost crying. This was everything I had dreamed of since the day she had me fired. Jenna continued, her voice tense. "Marjorie didn't give up easily, though. She started screaming about how it must have been a hacker trying to frame her. She even accused the IT guy of being part of some conspiracy against her, but nobody believed her. Paul finally snapped and told her to sit down, or he'd have security escort her out. Paul, quiet, patient Paul." For him to raise his voice like that meant the situation had truly exploded. "In the end," Jenna said, "the board voted to suspend her as HOA president until a full investigation is done." She stormed out, dragging Pixie behind her. It was honestly kind of glorious. As Jenna spoke, my mind raced. Marjorie, humiliated and powerless, being publicly exposed for the manipulator she truly was. It felt like karma itself had descended upon the building. That evening, just when I thought the day couldn't get any stranger, I received a voicemail. It was from Aunt Louise, one of the elderly residents I had always helped with groceries and mail. Her trembling voice nearly brought me to tears. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "I don't know what you did, but thank you. People are finally seeing Marjorie for who she really is. The board is even talking about reinstating you once this mess clears up. I hope you'll consider coming back. We miss you here." I sat there, phone pressed to my chest, overwhelmed. For days, I'd been drowning in anger and humiliation, replaying every insult, every lie Marjorie had whispered about me. Now, she was finally facing the consequences, and I hadn't lifted a single finger to make it happen. But the drama wasn't over yet. Later that night, Jenna texted me again. "You won't believe this. Marjorie's been sending out these wild group texts to the entire tenant list, blaming Paul and the board for a witch hunt. She's threatening to sue everyone involved." I laughed out loud, but a part of me couldn't help feeling uneasy. Marjorie wasn't the type to back down quietly. Sure enough, the next day, a video surfaced on the building's private Facebook group. It was shaky footage someone had recorded during the meeting, showing Marjorie shouting and pointing her finger at Paul while tenants booed her. The comments section exploded. Dozens of residents shared stories of her manipulative behavior, some of which I had never even heard before. It was like a dam breaking. Years of silent frustration came pouring out. By the end of the week, Marjorie's reputation was in ruins. The board held another vote and officially stripped her of her title as HOA president. Paul announced that they were hiring a neutral third-party manager to handle all building affairs moving forward. That evening, Jenna called me one last time. "You won't believe this," she said, almost breathless. "Marjorie's moving out. She listed her condo for sale this morning." Apparently, she couldn't handle the embarrassment. I sat there in stunned silence, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. Relief, justice, even a little pity. When I walked past the building a few days later, I saw a moving truck parked outside. Marjorie stood on the curb, clutching Pixie, her face pale and tight with anger. For a brief moment, our eyes met. There was no smile this time, just pure, cold hatred. I didn't stop. I kept walking, head held high. I don't know if I'll return to that job. Part of me wants to, especially knowing that the community now understands what really happened. But another part of me wonders if it's time to start fresh, somewhere Marjorie's shadow can't reach. One thing is certain, though, Marjorie's reign is over. She destroyed herself with the very power she used to hurt others.
First, let's address the elephant in the lobby. You were not the AITA here. You were an employee doing your job according to policy. You respected procedures, followed the rules, treated tenants with professionalism, and even put up with the difficult personality of Marjorie. If anything, you went above and beyond by keeping your composure while she meddled, criticized, and manipulated. That already puts you firmly in the category of not the AITA. Now, let's dissect Marjorie's role. She embodies what I call the smiling saboteur, the type of person who wears a mask of charm but works behind the curtain to pull strings and wreck reputations. She used passive-aggressive tactics, weaponized her authority as HOA president, and twisted the situation so that HR saw you as incompetent. This wasn't just annoying, it was calculated sabotage. She wanted control, and she got it by manufacturing your failure. You might wonder if you could have done something differently. Honestly, not much. With someone like Marjorie, silence isn't safety, it's an invitation for them to keep pushing. But even if you had stood up to her earlier, the risk was that she would escalate even faster. She thrived on having an audience and enjoyed the power imbalance. In that sense, you were in a no-win situation the moment she set her sights on you. Here's the practical suggestion. When you work under people like Marjorie, document everything. Dates, times, conversations, instructions she gave you, and the results. That way, if she tries to turn your professionalism into evidence of incompetence, you can show a clear timeline that proves otherwise. This isn't just advice for the past, it's survival strategy for the future. In any community-driven environment, apartment complexes, HOAs, corporate boards, politics often matter more than truth. Paper trails are the armor that keeps you safe. On the humor side, let's be real, Pixie the Terrier might have been the most honest character in this entire drama. At least Pixie didn't hide her hostility behind fake smiles. She barked, snapped, and lunged, but at least she did it openly. If anything, Pixie was a furry reflection of Marjorie, loud, unrelenting, and convinced the entire world was trespassing on her territory. The difference? You can put a muzzle on a terrier. HOA presidents are trickier. Now, about your feelings of humiliation. That's valid. Losing a job unfairly cuts deeper than just income loss, it attacks your sense of worth and identity. But here's the perspective shift. The community didn't turn on you. They eventually turned on her. People noticed the cracks in her facade, and once they had proof, they revolted. If anything, her downfall validated your professionalism. You weren't weak. You weren't incompetent. You were simply outmaneuvered by someone who mistook cruelty for power. And let's give credit where it's due. Karma arrived right on time. The security system failure and theft exposed her as reckless and manipulative. She dug her own grave with her bragging. That collapse wasn't random, it was the natural outcome of someone who constantly overreached. She pulled too many strings until they snapped back in her face. If life were a play, she'd be the villain whose dramatic monologue gets cut short by a falling stage light. So, verdict time, you are not the AITA. You were the target of someone else's schemes. The real AITA was Marjorie, with a supporting role played by her barking sidekick Pixie. If I were you, I'd take two things from this saga. One, never underestimate the quiet power of community. Residents rallied once the truth came out, and even HR would have to rethink their stance if you ever considered returning. Two, your dignity survived. That's more valuable than any job title. Marjorie lost hers permanently. To wrap it up with a bit of wry jokes, Marjorie thought she was running a kingdom, but in the end, she was just a dethroned monarch dragging a noisy terrier off the curb while the townspeople cheered her downfall. You didn't push her, she tripped over her own crown. So no, you're not the AITA. You were the one holding the building together until the truth finally exposed the actual problem. Before we jump into the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know your favorite part in the comments.
AITA for walking away after my ex came back into my life confused and controlling. I'm 27, and the past year of my life has been an emotional roller coaster, a mixture of heartbreak, confusion, and self-discovery. I never imagined I'd feel so torn, so unsettled, by someone I once trusted completely. Last spring, my boyfriend at the time, Ethan, and I had been together for 8 months. We were serious, or at least I thought we were. We had plans, a cross-country road trip after graduation, sharing an apartment in the city, building a life that felt steady, tangible. Ethan loved to talk talk about the future. He described it in vivid detail, the neighborhoods we'd live in, the trips we'd take, even the routines we'd develop. I listened, captivated, thinking we were on the same page. I trusted him. I believed in us. But slowly, the foundation started cracking. At first, it was small things. Texts that went unanswered, last-minute cancellations, vague excuses for why he couldn't see me. I told myself it was stress, that maybe he needed space. I tried talking to him. I asked if something was wrong, if he was unhappy. He smiled, brushed me off, and said, "I just need some time to think." Time to think. Those words became a whispering echo in my mind. Then one evening, I opened his laptop to help him find a confirmation email for a trip, and I saw it. A flight to a city he hadn't mentioned. When I asked him about it, he froze. He admitted he was leaving for a few days, just to clear his head. I remember the chill that ran down my spine. The next 3 days, he stayed in my apartment, packing quietly, avoiding my eyes, as though the love we had shared could be dissolved by distance. And then came the breakup. He said he loved me, but he wasn't in love with me. That spark, he claimed, was missing for a long time. He said he needed to find it somewhere else. I let him stay for the remainder of his visit. I didn't fight. I didn't cry in front of him. I wanted to, but the words lodged in my throat. I watched him walk out the door, leaving behind the weight of everything we had built together. In the days that followed, I withdrew. I canceled plans. I avoided my friends. Nights were spent sitting on my balcony, staring at the city skyline, wondering how someone could look you in the eyes and decide your love wasn't enough. Every corner of my apartment felt like him, his coffee mug still in the sink, his jacket draped over a chair. It was a physical ache, almost unbearable. Then he texted me. Against my better judgment, I replied. At first, the messages were harmless, small check-ins, updates about life, school, work, light, platonic. It was comforting, a brief reminder of familiarity. But soon, the old ache stirred again, the tension that comes with unresolved emotions. He mentioned visiting the city. Coincidentally, the timing aligned with a weekend I had planned with friends. I hesitated, but curiosity and perhaps lingering affection pushed me to invite him to stay for a few days. I wanted to see him, to confront the ghost of our past, and maybe, just maybe, understand if the connection we had could be salvaged. When he arrived, the first night felt surreal. We tried to act like friends, sharing meals, laughing at old jokes, reminiscing. But under the surface, a storm was brewing. Every smile, every touch, carried a tension that made my chest ache. The night we went out for drinks, the storm broke. He kissed me. I froze, tears pricking my eyes. My mind screamed at me to step back, to not let history repeat itself. He whispered that he finally felt what he had been missing, that he loved me, that he wanted to try again. For a few fleeting hours, I let myself hope. I allowed myself to believe, dangerously, that maybe this time would be different. But reality was relentless. The next day, he questioned every minor interaction I had while he was gone. Who I spoke to, where I had been, even the single date I had gone on, a harmless, platonic outing, became ammunition for his anger. He accused me of lying, manipulating, and ruining everything. He blamed me for the very breakup he had orchestrated. I tried to explain, to remind him that it was he who had ended things, but he wouldn't hear it. He twisted my words, my choices, into a story where I was the villain. By the third night, exhaustion had seeped into my bones. I let him sleep on my apartment floor, knowing there was nowhere else for him. But he didn't let it rest. He kept arguing, bringing up old mistakes, scrutinizing my behavior, twisting memories, and mocking my emotions. Then came the cruelest words. He laughed while calling me a piece of trash. That shattered something inside me. I ran to my roommate Sienna, seeking refuge, and finally blocked him on every platform. Even then, the weight lingered. At night, I replayed the conversations, dissecting every text, every glance, every comment. Doubt seeped in, clawing at me. Friends reassured me, told me he was wrong, that I had every right to cut him off. But guilt and pain have a stubborn way of clinging, even when reason is clear. Weeks turned into months. I moved into a new apartment, started a new job, and rebuilt routines for myself. I began journaling, practicing guitar, reconnecting with friends. But every quiet moment, every silence, carried his echo. The anger, the accusations, the manipulation, they haunted the edges of my mind. Then came a late-night message, unexpected, from Harper, someone who knew Ethan from before. She told me that he had been posting online about me, framing me as manipulative and cruel, spinning our breakup into a story where I was the wrongdoer. I ignored it at first. I had no energy to engage. A week later, I ran into him at a coffee shop. He seemed startled to see me. He smiled, the old charm intact, and tried to approach, but I didn't move. He called my name. My heart jumped, a mixture of old love and caution. I told him firmly that I was no longer available to his drama, that I had moved on. on. He begged for explanations, apologies, and even tried to persuade me that he still loved me. But I had learned the hardest lesson. Love without respect is fragile and dangerous. Since then, he has tried to reach out indirectly, asking mutual friends about me, posting subtle messages online, and attempting to make me feel guilty. I haven't responded. I've stayed firm, rebuilding the boundaries I had lost. Every day is still a struggle. Sometimes I replay his words, the accusations, the laughter that hurts so much, but I also notice the freedom creeping in. The freedom of no longer letting someone manipulate my emotions, no longer letting my life orbit around his decisions. I have learned something invaluable. It's not about whether love exists. It's about whether trust, respect, and understanding exist alongside it. Without those, even the strongest feelings will fracture. I am slowly learning to breathe again, to live again, and to trust myself and my instincts. Some nights, I still cry. Some nights, I still feel the ache of what could have been. But I know now that walking away, truly walking away, was the only choice that allowed me to survive and, eventually, to start living fully again. A month after I blocked Ethan, life had started to feel a little lighter. I had moved into my new apartment, started decorating it the way I wanted, and even began spending evenings practicing guitar again. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was reclaiming myself. I was careful not to check social media too often, not to let old habits drag me back into the past. I had established boundaries, and I was determined to keep them. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed with a direct message on Instagram. The sender was Harper, someone I didn't know personally, but she explained that she was a friend of Ethan's. I hesitated before opening it. "Hi," the message began. "I don't know if you'll trust me, but I need to tell you what Ethan's been saying. He's posting online about you, framing you as manipulative, as if this whole breakup was your fault. He's telling our mutual friends that you led him on during the reunion." I can't stay silent. I felt my chest tighten. My hands trembled slightly as I read each word. Anger, disbelief, and sadness collided inside me. How dare he turn our story into something that made me look like the villain? How dare he try to rewrite months of trust, love, and pain into lies for others? Harper continued. "He's in the city again for a conference. He hasn't contacted you directly, but he's asking around. He's looking for you." I didn't respond. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing I had read this. I didn't want to engage in another battle, another tug of war for control. 2 days later, I stepped into a small cafe near my apartment to grab a coffee and clear my mind. And there he was, Ethan, sitting at a table by the window, scrolling through his phone, looking as if he had been caught off guard the moment our eyes met. My heart jumped into my throat. I froze, unsure of whether to retreat or confront him. He stood slowly, calling my name with that familiar warmth that once drew me in. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said softly. I shook my head, trying to steady myself, my hands trembling as I gripped my coffee cup. "Ethan," I said quietly, "you hurt me. You made your choices. I'm not part of this anymore." He took a tentative step closer, his eyes searching mine, and I could feel the old pull, the hope, the longing, the memories of laughter and late-night talks. "I know I hurt you," he said, "but I didn't mean. I didn't realize how much it would affect you. Can we talk, please?" I felt my resolve weaken for a split second. I could almost hear the voice in my head that wanted to forgive, to try again. But I shook my head firmly. "No," I whispered. "There's nothing left to talk about." He looked stunned, almost desperate. "Please," he said again, more forcefully this time. "I need you to understand. I still love you. I've made mistakes, but I want to fix this. Just give me a chance." I stepped back, my eyes stinging with unshed tears. "No, Ethan. Love isn't enough. Not after what you did. You ended this once. You broke my trust. And now you're trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty. I won't do it." He didn't respond immediately. He just stared at me, as if trying to will me to change my mind. Then he muttered something under his breath and left the cafe without another word. I slumped into my chair, shaking, heart racing, realizing just how much power he still had over my emotions despite my best efforts. The following week, things escalated. Harper reached out again, warning me that Ethan had been texting mutual friends to check in on me, leaving messages about how I was supposedly overreacting, how I had misunderstood his feelings. I ignored everything. I muted, blocked, avoided. Every attempt he made to insert himself into my life felt like a test, like he wanted to see if I would crumble under the weight of guilt and old feelings. Then came the messages. Long, emotional texts filled with admissions, confessions, apologies, and desperate attempts to manipulate me one last time. "I've been selfish," one read. "I was scared of losing you. I regret everything. Can we meet? I just want to say goodbye properly." The temptation to respond was nearly unbearable. The old love surged like a wave, threatening to pull me back into the chaos I had barely escaped. I read his words over and over, feeling my chest tighten, heart hammering, hands shaking. breaking. I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, tears rolling down my face. Part of me wanted to scream at him. Part of me wanted to forgive him. And then I made a choice. A hard, deliberate choice. I typed a simple message. I've moved on. Goodbye, Ethan. I hope you find yourself. I hit send and felt a strange mixture of relief and grief wash over me. For the first time in months, I felt like I had taken control again. Not over him, not over our past, but over my own life. Weeks passed, and I didn't hear from him again. Harper checked in occasionally, letting me know that he had been asking about me, but had stopped trying to contact me directly. I began to notice a shift in myself. I no longer felt the tight knot of anxiety in my chest every time my phone buzzed. I started playing guitar without thinking of him, cooking for myself without reminders of shared meals, sleeping without the lingering echo of his anger. And yet, the scars remained. I still thought of the nights he laughed while calling me a piece of trash. I still questioned myself in quiet moments, wondering if I could have done more, if I could have been enough. But each day, I reminded myself the fault wasn't mine. I had acted with honesty, with kindness, and with integrity. He had chosen his path, and I had chosen mine. Months later, I attended a friend's birthday party in my new apartment building. I saw him across the room, having somehow found out the location. My heart skipped a beat, but this time, I didn't feel the pull. I didn't feel the confusion. I simply looked at him, recognized him as a person I had loved once but no longer could, and turned away. That night, I realized something crucial. True freedom doesn't come from forgetting. It doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from refusing to let someone else control your emotions, your decisions, or your life. I had survived heartbreak, manipulation, and guilt, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more certain of my own worth.
You are not the AITA. From where I stand, Ethan's pattern of behavior reveals manipulation, gaslighting, and disrespect. He took your vulnerability, twisted your loyalty into guilt, and then weaponized your love to reassert control whenever he felt insecure. That is not partnership, that is exploitation. You did not betray, deceive, or mistreat him. You attempted patience, compassion, and forgiveness, even when he proved undeserving. If anything, your mistake was extending grace too long to someone who only used it as leverage. My personal insight is this: genuine love does not seek to punish you for healing. His accusations about your date, his laughter at your pain, and his attempts to paint you as the villain show a deep insecurity projected outward. When someone cannot take accountability, they build narratives where they are the victim. Ethan's stories about you online were not reflections of truth. They were shields against his own self-reflection. And by cutting contact, you stripped him of that shield. That was strength, not cruelty. My suggestion moving forward: keep choosing boundaries. They are not walls to isolate you, but fences that protect your dignity. Document patterns, trust early warning signs, and remember that closure does not come from their apology, it comes from your decision to step away. Relationships that demand you surrender your sense of self are not worth the cost, no matter how intoxicating the memories. Now, let me offer a joke to lighten this heavy verdict. If love without respect were a pizza, Ethan's would be the kind where he eats all the toppings and leaves you with a soggy crust. And you, wisely, decided you deserved the whole pie. So the verdict stands clear: you are not the AITA. He is. You endured harm, carried responsibility that wasn't yours, and ultimately reclaimed your autonomy. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you resilient. And resilience, unlike his excuses, doesn't crumble under pressure. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Got a story to share? Drop it in the comments and let us know which one was your favorite. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely want to check out AITA for asking my son and his girlfriend to help with the bills. Click here to watch it now.